Hello and welcome back to the No Dig Norfolk Gardener. Now we've returned back to the kitchen now. It's actually the same day that we filmed the August tour going around the garden. So we've harvested the things that we needed. And I did say to you in that video that the next one we would shoot would be Mrs. W's runner bean chutney. We had been in the greenhouse, hadn't we, and the polytunnel, and this is what we got out of it. You can see all the tomatoes that we actually harvested. So we've got quite a bit of work to do with those. And the peppers that we got. So yeah, there's quite a few peppers that were ready and available to us to harvest, along with, as usual, more courgettes. They have been really good this year. They are just about every year. So, but that's enough of that. That's just a slight little follow on from the last video. What we are here to do is to make runner bean chutney.
Well, to start off with, I've got a selection of jars that I'm going to use for the chutney. They've all been thoroughly washed, and I'm now going to pop them into the oven on about 100 degrees Celsius to sterilise them so that they're all nice and warm when we hopefully decant the chutney into them later. So the ingredients for the chutney, obviously, we need the runner beans. We wouldn't have runner bean chutney without runner beans. 3 medium onions, some malt vinegar, some cider vinegar, corn flour, granulated sugar, some ground turmeric and some mustard powder. First of all, we need to prep the veg. So the onions need to be finely chopped and the runner beans need to be sliced. As you can see, I have chopped the 3 medium onions ready, and I'm in the process of just about finishing the runner beans. I didn't quite have a kilo of runner beans, so I have topped it up with some French beans that I've cut slightly differently. I'm just going to show you how I've chopped these up. I've simply taken the top end off, and then I've, at a diagonal, sliced quite thinly down the runner bean. So that's the runners, and then these are with the French, and some of these have been a little bit bigger. So I've used the thicker ones, and I've just cut those roughly about 1 centimetre long, maybe not quite as long as that, but straight through, just so that we get a little bit different shape and possibly texture into it. If you don't have any runner beans and you only have French beans, you could use those equally as well with the same recipe. You just need the same quantities. So now over to the hob. First of all, I've got my pan of water on to bring that up to the boil to cook the beans. While we're waiting for that to heat up, we're going to start on the chutney. Now I'm using a stainless steel preserving pan, which you should always use a stainless steel if you can, because the vinegar can react with certain metals. Anything non-stainless steel or aluminium, that can make the flavour of the chutney strange. So Mr. W bought me this pan a 3 Christmases ago, and I've made many chutneys and jams in it so far, and it's done me well. So I'm going to turn that on. To the pan I'm going to add 200 ml of malt vinegar and my 3 medium finely chopped onions, and then we're going to bring that up to the boil. And once it's up to the boil, we shall simmer it for about 15 minutes, in which time hopefully the water will be boiling, ready for the runner beans. It's now boiling, so I'm going to turn that down to a gentle simmer. And we shall simmer that for 15 minutes to soften the onions right down. So you can see, while our onions are still cooking, the water has come to the boil. So I'm just going to add the beans into the water, the runners and the Frenchies, and they need to come back up to the boil and to simmer for 3 minutes. So if you have a look into the onions and the vinegar, here they are simmering away nicely. I'm just moving them around slightly so that they all get into the vinegar. And we've got about another 7 minutes to go on. So here we have it. The onions have had their 15 minutes simmering, and I have just strained the green beans after their 3 minutes of simmering, of boiling, and they are just straining at the moment there. So we go back to the onions. So to the onions we add 150 ml of cider vinegar and 250 grams of granulated sugar. Then we turn up the heat again, stir that in, and we bring this back to the boil. You need to keep stirring it as the sugar is in at the moment while the sugar's dissolving, because that can catch on the bottom if you didn't. The onions and the sugar and vinegar have been bubbling away for 2 minutes, and we now add the runner beans that have been straining here. Give them a stir. And then we need to simmer this mixture for 10 minutes. Stirring occasionally, obviously, there's sugar in there. You can just see it simmering in the bottom there. So 10 minutes. Stirring occasionally. So while the beans are simmering away, we can move on to the next step now, and that is to take your 20 grams of corn flour. I was going to mix it in this bowl, and then I realised it wasn't going to be big enough, so I'm using a bigger bowl. I don't usually make a lot of washing up. The mustard powder, the English mustard powder, we need a tablespoon. So a tablespoon there. And a tablespoon of turmeric, which gives it the lovely vibrant colour. Stir those together in the bowl, trying to take out any lumps that could be there. Before we add the final 50 ml of cider vinegar, and we're just going to gradually stir this in to make a smooth paste or sauce, to make sure that we get the lumps out as we go. And this will thicken the sauce around the beans. And that's nice and smooth now. So it's ready for when the beans are ready. The beans have now been simmering for the 10 minutes, and this is the slightly tricky bit that you need to stir this turmeric mixture in quite quickly so it doesn't form any lumps. So stir quite vigorously. So here we go. Pour it in. Keep stirring. And now we need to simmer this again with the addition of some salt, a teaspoon and a half of, I'm going to put sea salt into here. And simmer for a further 20 minutes. But you will now have to keep stirring very regularly because it could catch on the bottom. I'm going to turn the temperature down on this now to a slightly gentler simmer. It smells lovely. Just taken the jars out of the oven. They've been in there since we started cooking, and the chutney is now ready. So I've removed them. They are all sterile now, ready to receive the chutney. And here it is. So just spoon it in. Making sure that you press it down as you go so there's no air gaps. Nice and full jars. Push that down. So just carefully wipe around the edge to make sure we get a good seal with the lid. Pop the lid on and just leave it there, and as they start to cool, the vacuum in the jar will pull that, which is now at the moment popping. It will suck it in and seal it nicely airtight. So there you have it. All we need to do now is to label our chutney and date. I always put just the month and the year, so August 22. I managed to get from that amount, that quantity, I think they're approximately 400 gram jars and probably a 300 gram jar. They will store well in the cupboard, unopened, for up to 12 months. Once you have opened them, I do suggest you keep it in the fridge and use it, not as soon as possible, but be aware that the shelf life will go down once it is opened. And a lot of this we will enjoy at Christmas, but it can be served with cheese and biscuits, cold meats, just even as a sandwich pickle, you know, anything like that, or just as a little side dish with some sausages. There we go. Mrs. W's runner bean chutney. Enjoy!
That was absolutely fantastic. One thing that she did just ask me to say to you all is that it will need to stay in the cupboard for a month to let it mature a bit before it's at its absolute best. And the other thing that she just wanted to say was, obviously this is Mrs. W's recipe. If it suits your taste, fine, but if you then need to add something else to it, then that makes it all the more fun as you put your own stamp on it. We shall see you next time.